Hi, my name is Tammy.
And I'm Jen.
And they call us Woo. Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be a little bit more, I guess you could say, lighthearted, depending on what your version of lighthearted is in our conversation. We're going to talk about animals, and I have a feeling specifically cats will be something we're going to discuss a lot. And kind of their, spiritual and, otherworldly, their connection to us, kind of what cats have represented to us, different ways that they can be energetically connected, and even talk a little bit about some of the other things we've heard of in other cultures. I think it's kind of a perfect time to do this, especially because spooky season is about to begin, and black cats are everywhere right now. So
Yes. Yes. We have 4 or 5 of them that live in the yard beyond our yard that just roam the earth.
Black cats?
Yes, black cats. There is one striped cat and one orange cat, too. We don't know how they're related, but they all run in a pack.
Cute.
Yeah, they're very cute.
People are so... I shouldn't say that. I do know why some people are strange about black cats, but I don't know. I've never met a mean black cat, honestly. Every black cat I've met has been, pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm just not a super, what's the word I'm looking for?
Superstitious?
There you go. Yes.
Yeah. No, I've always loved black cats. But the sad thing is, a lot of humane societies and shelters, somebody will get a black cat around the Halloween time, and then they get brought back. So they get a lot of returned black cats. So don't do that, people. If you get a black cat, they're lovely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like bunnies around Easter and stuff like that. Come on. They're their own little being.
Well, so I have always learned that black cats are a sign of protection. So if they're showing up in your periphery or walking in front of you, they're a sign of protection. I know when I was a kid, there were a lot of people who were like, oh my gosh, that's a bad omen. Something bad's going to happen. You have 7 years bad luck. And then I would go and walk under a ladder, and then I was just screwed. They're like, you're going to die. Everything's going to fall on you.
Well, let's be honest, it's going to happen to the best of it anyway. At least you get to go out looking at an adorable little black cat.
Right? I know. They're so cute with their sharp little teeth and their claws.
Every time my cat yawns, I'm like, you are the cutest predator ever. I don't understand what in nature, why you needed to be so freaking cute. You're supposed to be ferocious, but you're adorable.
To draw you in.
Fair enough. Although I have read that cats are, house cats especially, are especially smart in that they have adapted their behavior for us because they're like, hey, we can get lots of stuff from these people. They're suckers. So apparently in the wild, they don't meow. And the whole meowing thing was kind of an adaptation to understanding what humans responded to. Yep. So there's these theories around, it sounds kind of like a baby crying sometimes. So humans are going to react and blah, blah. And it's just, funny to me that these little, they're very close to their ancestors. So these little predators are roaming our house, biting us. And then the next second, we're like, you're so soft and cute. Yes, I'll give you dinner.
Yeah. So I'm going to go kind of dark right now. Somebody told me that they've done studies that show if somebody dies in their house and they have cats, their cats will eat them. Real, eat them in the first couple of days because they're like, you're my food now.
I've heard similar things with dogs too, though.
See, it's not just cats. I think it's all animals. And right? I kind of feel like if we were on a deserted island and there was only a few people and there was no food, I feel like people would do it too.
I was like, I can see where this is going. We're like, this is going to be lighthearted, but also cannibalism.
Well, I didn't actually say it. I just said that I think people would do the same thing to survive. I just didn't finish the sentence.
A book and a movie about some plane crash in the Himalayas or something.
Yes.
People ended up, resorting to things to survive.
Yes. I don't know. A lot of my friend groups, we've had discussions. If we're ever on a deserted island, I will volunteer because I don't want anybody to feel bad. So if you're ever in a plane crash with me and we're on the verge of dying, just know I'm volunteering myself so nobody has to feel bad about what they have to do.
You know what's funny is I was going to say something similar where I'm like, you know what? I won't need it at that point. Like, do what you got to do. Like, right? It's not gonna bother me.
Exactly. And I figure it is a soul contract that I must have somewhere that I feel okay with that. Like, seriously. And I'm sure my cats know that too.
Too many Hunger Games. We watch Hunger Games too much. We're volunteering as tributes.
Yep, that's what it is.
Anyway, back to cats and all that fun stuff.
So I will tell a little story. So a while ago, I was taking a class on craniosacral therapy, and it was taught in someone's home. So we had massage tables set up all over in the home, and we had one participant who was allergic to cats. And the home that we were in, they had this beautiful, sweet, loving cat, but she was not allowed to be in the house. She was an indoor-outdoor cat. She wasn't allowed to be in the house while we were doing sessions or while we were doing any of our training. So this cat was outside in the back patio, and the instructor was actually working on me. And I was having a lot of issues. I had endometriosis and polycystic ovarian syndrome. And so I had a lot of things going on in my body. And he started working on my abdomen and was like rocking me back and forth. And all of a sudden, this person's cat was at the door, just like banging on the door and screaming bloody murder, like, let me in, let me in. And there's another person whose table was set up like right in the patio area, right by the door. And the table that I was on was was in the next room over, but we could still see the patio. And then there were another 3 massage tables or 4 massage tables in the next room over. And so everybody is hearing this cat screaming, and I'm on the table, like on the verge of tears. There was so much stuff moving in me. And this cat is just screaming and screaming and screaming. And I'm going, okay, like, you can't cry, you can't cry, you can't cry. And I'm trying not to cry. And the cat just keeps getting louder and louder and louder. And as my emotions are building and building and building, this cat is getting more and more frantic to get in the house. And finally, like, somebody in the other room was like, we don't care anymore. Just let the cat in. There's something going on. Because everybody recognized that there must have been some energy happening, because this cat was very docile and like super, super sweet. And the cat came tearing in the house, jumped up on the table and laid right on my abdomen. What? And like, I just lost it. I just started sobbing and had all of these beautiful images of like, this is going to be a really strange image, but there was like this little potted tree that was in a cement planter next to an elevator in this building. And it sprouted these beautiful little colorful balls. And then all of a sudden, the whole tree just went, and all of the balls shot all over the place. And everything in me, all of my emotions just completely exploded. And that's when I started crying. And that's when the cat jumped up on me. And as soon as I got done crying, the cat jumped off the table, walked right back outside, and was totally fine.
Wow.
It was like the cat knew that I needed a prompt to let go of the junk that I was holding on to so that I would actually acknowledge it and move forward, because I am somebody who will hold things in because I don't want people to see me cry, especially in a setting like that with like tons of other healers. But I see that like in my own cats, or when I was doing in-home massage, when I would work with people, if there was a lot of emotions coming up, or if I saw that there was energy building in their body, or there was energy that needed to be cleared, a lot of the time their animals would like pound on the door to get in the room, or the dogs would start howling or crying, or they would come and start licking their owner, or they would jump up on the table. I had a 180-pound dog jump up on the table on their owner one day. Like, most beautiful, sweetest dog, but like huge dog just jumped up on the table and was like, "Mama, you okay? Lick, lick, lick." And it is. Animals feel everything. They feel the energy that's moving. They feel the energy that's not moving, that needs to move. And they just want to help.
They do. That's kind of the beautiful connection that I see, especially animals that have been domesticated and have a really strong connection to us. But like my husband, I always kind of laugh that he's like a Dr. Dolittle, because even like animals that are known to be like mean or nasty, generally they're really good with him. But he has these beautiful stories from when he was a kid, because he had a really, quite traumatic childhood, and how animals were his friend. And he always talks about a mule he had when he was young, Shotgun.
Love the mule stories.
Cracked me up, his stories about him, because anybody who is familiar with mules, they're very smart and very stubborn, just like all the stories. So this particular mule, like, he refused to stay in his yard. They tried all different types of fencing. They even tried like barbed wire fencing, which he just pushed his chest against and pushed through. He untied knots when they would try to like tie him out somewhere. He just was like, no, I'm not doing this. And every time he got out, he would go to the neighbor's house, eat their cactus, poop on their porch, and then go wander the neighborhood. So they'd get a call from the neighbor being like, Shotgun's out again. And they'd go look for him. And inevitably, they said that they would come home and he'd be at the top of the driveway like, where have you been? It's dinner time. I've been waiting here for you. He just wanted to live by his own rules. But the sweetest stories about him are, when my husband was going through stuff, he would go out and talk to him, and they just had such a connection. He followed my husband around like a big dog. They would go on adventures through the woods together. He was just with him. So when he needed a moment, and you think about that, mules are big animals, and you hear all these stories about horses and, other large animals that have connections to people too, even like elephants and stuff. And when they have that connection, like, they express such quietness and concern. Like the fact that this mule that was determined to push through a barbed wire fence also would just be the sweetest, most gentle. My husband said he would like wrap his neck around him and give him a hug when he needed it. It was just such, I loved it. It was such a sweet story. He would stand there for hours and just listen to him talk. Because if anyone has met my husband, he can talk. He can talk a lot, especially when he has like a lot of nervous energy. And it's really cool to think about that. And it's kind of funny, like the one animal that I could see my husband was having a little bit of challenge with was actually the cat that we have now. And it wasn't because he didn't know how to connect with the animal. I think it's because they're so similar that they kind of didn't know what to do with each other at first. Like, where are your boundaries? I don't know. Like, you say you have these boundaries, but also you're not doing the same thing that I think. Like, they're just a little like, they love each other, but they're just like a little suspicious at first. And it's hilarious. I mean, of course, now it's like the cutest thing ever. But, even cats who are kind of known to be more independent and stuff like that, I've always found them to be super intuitive to know when their owner needs something, whoever their people are. If you're having a bad day, they know it. If you're crying, they know it. They snuggle up to you, or they're just there. It's like they can be the thing that we wish people could do sometimes, where they could just be there, like super calming. They're like, I'm not going to try to fix this, but I'm going to hang out with you while you cry, okay? And it's the sweetest thing ever. I love it.
Well, I used to have an African water frog when I was younger. My mom used to work for the school district, and she had this frog. It was a grow-a frog. It came as a tadpole in the mail. She had it with the kids.
There's a thing called a grow-a frog?
Yes, you get a tadpole in the mail, and then you grow a frog from it. What? And that's so cool. She had this frog with the kids at the school, and for whatever reason, she was no longer allowed to have the frog there. So the frog came home and became my frog. And her name was Blinky. And she was totally my frog. When I would go out of town, because I must have been like 16 or something around that time. Because I was going out of town, so I must have been able to drive. And I left to go out of town. And I came home and everybody that was in charge of feeding my frog said she would splash me the second that I came in here. She wanted nothing to do with me. She would turn her back on me. And then I came home and she'd like put her belly up against the glass aquarium and be like, I love you, you're home. And I would just sit and like pet the outside of the tank. And like she would just sit there and swim and look at me. And like, I don't know why I was so connected to this frog, but we had a connection and she would just like splash everybody else and just give everybody attitude. But she was like my little support froggy. If I had anything going on, I would just go and talk to Blinky and she would just sit up against the edge of the glass and just look at me. And so I think that I hear so much from people, oh, it's just a dumb animal. Oh, it's just a dumb animal. And I'm always like, sometimes I think that these dumb animals are far more intelligent and far more intuitive than people ever could realize.
Yes.
And they are not dumb at all.
No. And sometimes I think that is humans' way of trying to establish our superiority. And let's look through history. When has that ever worked very well for us? We work a lot better when we're working in harmony with the things happening around us, the other very real living beings that deserve respect. I just watched the Temple Grandin movie not that long ago. The one with Claire Danes. Super good movie, by the way. And I loved a line she had in there where she's like, she was talking about cows and why cows are on this continent and how we've bred them and whatever. And she's like, we made them. They just, they can't be mistreated. They deserve our respect. They're here for us, And I was like, yeah I really like that because she was really big about creating really, supportive is not the word, but humane practices around livestock. Animals that realistically are there to be consumed or there for dairy or whatever. Still creating very humane practices around that and how to help them be calm and live a good life. And I loved that. I thought it was beautiful because I'm like, it's true. It doesn't really matter what you think the purpose of these animals are here for. Like, they deserve respect.
Yeah.
And especially when we think of kind of what we were talking earlier about the energetic connection that they can have. I've heard a lot about cats. I've heard about cats being able to like kind of go back and forth to the underworld and back. I've heard about cats being able to bring messages, which honestly, if you believe in animal signs, like a lot of animals can bring you a message, but I hear a lot about cats, and I guess I connect some of it to some of the stuff I've read about Egyptian culture in the past, and they were deified and they were, sometimes mummified with their owners, just really like they really thought cats were special and they could do special things energetically.
Yeah.
Have you heard much about that?
I haven't heard a ton about that, but I've had a lot of experiences with like when I do shamanic journeying. So it's kind of like a meditation practice where you're going into the energetic world and you're asking your helping spirits, you're asking your guides, you're asking your spirit animals, you're asking any other beings who are there to assist you to step forward while you're in that space, kind of out of your physical human body. You're asking them for assistance. And not every time, but a lot of the time when I go into those shamanic journeys, one of my helping spirits is actually this gigantic lioness and this beautiful, beautiful creature who steps forward and speaks these beautiful truths to me about what's going on in my life and how I need to step forward. And a lot of the time she talks to me about personal power and making sure that you're listening to yourself and doing the things that you enjoy that will also nourish and feed you. But most of the time when I go into those shamanic journeys, there are a lot of different animals who are there assisting. And I'm typically drawn to the gigantic cat variety of animals. So that's where a lot of my interaction in the spirit world is with other animals. Mm-hmm. But I also know that when I'm working with clients, their cats in particular who have crossed over, a lot of the time they'll step into a session. So I'll be working on somebody and all of a sudden I like step over a cat and I'm like, wait a second, there should be a cat here. Like, because they're like right there at the table because they know that the energy's shifting and that there might be some assistance needed. And they're like, hey, I can help with this. I'm here. So then I end up telling my clients afterwards, hey, your kitty was here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Maybe the Egyptians were onto something. Because I know I was reading a little bit about it too, and apparently they took it so seriously that if somebody caused the death of a cat intentionally or unintentionally, they were then sentenced to death, which that's pretty intense. Ooh. Like they really cared about their cats.
Well, I mean, if it was an intentional thing, you better watch it. Like,
right. I mean, at that point, come on, you psychopath. Like, don't intentionally kill animals.
Okay. I should calm that down because sometimes we do things that are like humane kill. Like if a cat is having issues. So, I mean, take that back. No judgment.
Yes.
Like sometimes there's
my
reasons.
mind immediately went to the first sign of a psychopath is like if they find pleasure in killing animals. I guess I went real dark with that.
Yeah. Yeah. You're all worried about me and my cannibal thing. Oh, like I said, I don't have a cannibal thing, you guys. That's not like you guys heard the beginning. I was talking about being stuck on a desert island. Oh gosh. Again,
now you have a
things
thing.
Come out of my mouth. Yeah, now I have a thing, apparently.
We were talking a little bit earlier about like how funky the energy is in general right now. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to we just have a few little like weirdly wired connections in our heads right now. That's all.
Yes.
But I know that the Egyptians believed that cats were the guardians of the underworld. So their belief was not that they necessarily lived there and then came back, but more like they were the ones that were helping people to transition. They were guarding to make sure they were like your tour guide as you cross through or whatever, which is kind of cool. Because they didn't believe that they were, sometimes people think of that and they're like, oh, they're these little, especially black cats, right? Like they're scary or whatever, but that's not what they believed. They believed that they actually were just beings that could go back and forth and helped protect you on either side, which is kind of funny though, that you see people a lot of times with their cats when you're, doing some of the journeying and stuff or working with people and getting messages and all that. Cause I'm like, maybe it's not far off from what really happens. I don't know.
Have you ever been with somebody as they're transitioning to the other side? So like in hospice care or been there with somebody when they're passing?
I have not been in the room with somebody. I've been there like towards the end of life, but I've never been present when someone has passed. No.
Okay. So even toward the end of life, I've had the opportunity, it's a beautiful opportunity. Sometimes it's extremely, extremely sad because your human self kind of gets in the way, but it's a beautiful opportunity to help people cross over. And that's something that I had the opportunity to do quite a bit because I used to do hospice massage as well. And a lot of the time in hospice settings, they would have like little care dogs or care cats who would come around to help comfort people as they were transitioning. Mm-hmm. And it was always interesting that there were people that all of a sudden, like, they weren't people who liked animals. They weren't people who wanted the dogs or the cats around them. They wanted nothing to do with that type of care package. But as they were starting to get ready to cross over, the dogs would go and sit outside their door. Mm. Or the cats would go and curl up at the end of their bed. Mm-hmm. And they just knew. They knew that their time was coming. So as the care staff started recognizing this, they would start paying more attention to what was happening and functions that were changing. And if the way that the person was speaking was changing or the way that they were interacting was changing. And usually they could tell like a week out, and at least the facilities that I was working in, they could tell a week out that the animals were starting to act differently. And regardless of anything else changing in the human body, the animals were acting differently. They knew. And so it was beautiful because a lot of those people who wanted nothing to do with those animals, they got real cozy with them. Yeah. They got real cozy and they got a lot of comfort from that. Yeah, and they got really extra love.
It's a really nice gift because I mean, that's part of what makes animals so special, I think, too, is there's no ulterior motives in the sense of, you know, if an animal is there hanging out with you just because you need it, it's not that they're expecting the reciprocation of you, you know, doing anything for them at the moment. They're just there. You know, they're just more simple in the sense that you can feel, you know, you can feel everything from them. You can feel the love. You can feel the energy from them. I know in the little bit of animal massage that I've done, like you can really feel not only the areas that need to be worked on because they put out so much like heat and so much attention to that area, but they're very on the surface. So I think I might have mentioned before when we were talking about Reiki, how my cat would only let me go over certain areas. He let me do it for a little bit and then he's like, all right, I'm done. I wasn't touching him. I was just, you know, focusing energy, and he knew exactly what was happening. You know, same way when you touch them, like there's certain ways that they express that back to you non-verbally, which I think is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is the strangest animal experience that you've had that you can think of off the top of your head?
Oh my gosh.
Hard question.
That is a hard question. Let's see. Maybe I'm going to let you start with that as I think about it.
Okay. So I've had a lot of experiences because I do pay attention to animal signs and how animals are interacting with me. They give me messages a lot because it is part of my journeying experience. So when I do, like when I go to ceremony or I'm sitting in sacred circle, one of the things that I've had the experience of is when I go out on the land, I pay attention to, I'm asking for specific answers. And if there's animals that are around me, how are those animals interacting with me? And there was one year. So I am not a fan of spiders. I'm just not. They creep me out. Their little legs, I don't want them on me. Like they can be beautiful on the other side of the room. I'm not a fan. But now in the place that I live, we have spiders everywhere, and my fiance loves spiders. So he's constantly wanting to touch them, whether they are wild tarantulas or they are giant garden orb spiders, or I have seen him go, should I touch the black widow spider that's attached to the side of our house? Probably not. It has an egg sac. Oh, maybe we should get rid of that. But I really want to touch it. So that is not me. I want nothing to do with spiders by me. So there was one year that I was in ceremony, and actually I've had a couple of spider experiences, but one year when I was in ceremony, I was sitting outside and we were having like a triad, which is you're sitting with other people and you're three people and you're talking about your experiences that you've had so far and kind of working through some of the stuff you're working on. And I'm sitting there and the girl who's sitting next to me all of a sudden has this big spider crawling in her hair, like just crawling in her hair. And my ex-husband happened to be one of the people who was in my triad at the time. And it was when we were still married. And I reached over while this girl was talking and I just grabbed the spider and I was holding the spider in my hand for whatever reason, I was totally fine with it because in that moment, I knew that I was receiving medicine from that spider, like energetic medicine. And I was receiving information from that spider that everything that I was walking through was part of my journey and that the webs that I was weaving in my life were coming to fruition and everything was being built out perfectly. And so I grabbed the spider, I'm holding the spider, and then I was like, oh, I should put the spider down. I put the spider down. And my ex-husband goes, what was that? And I said, it's a spider, no big deal. And he goes, what? Who are you? Because it was just one of those things where I recognized in that moment that it was a beautiful sign. It wasn't about the spider in that moment. And so I could forget that it was creepy little legs that were touching me and its little eyeballs were staring at me from every angle. But I've had several of those moments where I can like move out of my fear of those specific animals to receive the messages. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking of, I don't know, we've had a lot of animals throughout my life that we've had as a family. A lot of animal interaction in general. It wasn't until maybe the last 10 years or so that I started really paying more attention to animal signs and stuff. Hold on one sec. Sorry about that. I needed to cough a little bit. Anyway, I guess this wasn't the weirdest experience, but it was a very wholesome, very happy, energetic experience for me. So, 2020, the year which shall not
we don't
be named.
Speak
of. At the time, we were in the midst of a shutdown. So, my business was closed. I was at home doing lots of stuff at home. So anyway, I love cardinals. I've always enjoyed them, but even more so as I started to recognize what they meant in my life and what positive messages they were bringing for me. My husband would kind of giggle at me because I could have this terrible thing happening, and then a cardinal would, fly in front of me and perch in front of me, and I'd be like, oh, everything's going to be okay. And he's like, all right, that's fine. Now that you've seen your cardinal. So anyway, of course, being a business owner, the shutdowns and stuff, you have, stress. You're wondering if you're going to survive. It was just a stressful time for everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody knew what was happening really. We were just all trying to figure it out. So anyway, I noticed one day as I'm sitting on my makeshift desk on my couch doing tons of bookkeeping, that there was some fluttering outside of we had a big picture window in our living room, which usually we kept the curtains, they were kind of semi-sheer curtains closed. And so I went to peek, and a cardinal had built her nest right in front of the window. Right there. So that whole 2.5 months that we had to be closed, I literally got to watch these little babies from eggs. I was really cautious. We would peek around the curtains because we didn't want to scare mama. But I got to watch these little cardinals be born and fly off, and the timing was perfect because kind of right after they left, we came home one day after we had been out walking or something, and I looked and they had all gone at that point. It was the most beautiful sign of everything's going to be okay. We're just going to hang out with you for a little while and don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. Everything was fine. But at the moment, it was a really nice message, and it was a really nice reinforcement for me to be able to go, all right, I'm just going to take this day by day. We're just going to keep going. No reason for me to panic, which is generally the messages that I get, or the feeling I get when I see them anyway. And usually they're really specific. When I'm talking about animal signs, it's an animal that's right in front of me. They're doing something odd, or clearly being look at me, make sure you look at me before they go off and do the other thing. So that was, I guess, probably one of my coolest experiences with cardinals because they are very special to me.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, as you're talking, I'm thinking about all the experiences that I've had with different animals.
I know, right?
And like, I've had experiences with hummingbirds and snails and turtles and with deer. And like, I've had so many really cool experiences that have asked me to stop and pay attention to the messages that are being brought forth. Like, a while back, like June of 2021, I think, I had been walking. I was walking like 6 miles a day down by the river. And as I was walking, I was really struggling with, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to move forward, I need to like just get going. And I was pushing myself too hard. I wasn't taking time to really care for myself. I wasn't slowing down enough to listen. Mm-hmm. And the snail came out in front of me on the trail, and it caught my attention. And it's just like slowly moving across the path in front of me. And it was very much this message of, you need to slow down and you need to listen and you need to make sure that you are taking time with the decisions that you're making. And so I sat there and I took pictures of it. I have these beautiful pictures of the snail. And after that, I got in the car and I was driving down the highway, and I'm a little bit of a lead foot, I will admit it. And I was driving down the highway, and every single car that was around me was going 10 to 15 miles an hour under the speed limit. Not even just under what speed I wanted to be going. It was under the speed limit. And there was nowhere I could go. I couldn't get around any of them. Mm-hmm. And I was so annoyed. I'm like, why are you people going so slow? And the picture of the snail pops into my head. And I'm like, I get it. Okay. Slow down. And so I had to take that moment to like stop and listen. And I was thinking about, after that, I started thinking about all the snails in my life. When I was a kid, my mom had this pen holder that was actually a snail that you would put the pens in the snail shell. Mm-hmm. And I all of a sudden was like, oh my gosh, I've been like collecting all these snail things since I was a kid. Like I had that laying around somewhere. And then I had a coin purse that was a snail. And I had all of these snail things. And I'm like, oh, I just haven't been listening to the messages that have been coming forward for all of this time. It just took the live snail to get my attention and tell me to slow down and stop, pay attention.
Well, that's the thing about these signs. Usually they keep coming. That brings up a thought for another episode where we should talk about feathers, like feather signs and stuff like that, because that's kind of a fun one too. I'm also into like number signs, like just a lot of stuff like that. But I love talking about the animals.
Have you ever seen a hummingbird feather before?
No.
They are the cutest little thing ever.
I mean, so obviously if we talk about that, but now I want to go find a little hummingbird feather.
Okay, do you want to hear my story now or when we talk about feathers?
Let's wait till I talk about feathers, because I know today we're going to do a shorter episode, so I don't know. I have no idea how long we've been recording.
I told you I was aiming for 45 minutes.
We're trying, people.
We just talk too much. We can't help it. No, so you'll have to remind me about the hummingbird feather when we do that episode. But
I like talking about this today, though. Animals bring me so much joy, and I really I love what positive messages they can bring, what support they can bring, even messages of paying attention, like your snail, like, hey, this is a thing you might want to do. Yeah. I will have to post the picture of that snail when we post the thing. I will put that in our social media and stuff, because it is a cool picture. You can see all of the details on the snail. Cool. I think it's one of my favorite pictures of all time. Yes, please do.
Yeah. And I would really, really love to hear people's stories of how they interact with animals and like the strangest animal story that they have.
Yes.
Because I know that people have to have stranger stories than me and the spider and the snail. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of animals out there.
Yes.
There's a lot.
Wouldn't that be cool if we could hear about interactions from like big animals and stuff? Like people who live in Africa and places where you can encounter much larger animals than, me in the Midwest.
That reminds me. So I was listening to a different podcast. It was actually a podcast that I have been on, The Skeptic Metaphysicians. If you have not listened to them, it's another awesome podcast about metaphysical stuff. And they had a guest on who actually had this beautiful encounter with elephants. And like super scary for everybody else, but the most impactful thing of this woman's life. If I can find the episode and find the her information, I will put that in the link too. Please because do. I've heard that episode like 17 times and I cry every single time because of the amazing story that she tells about this baby elephant.
I want to hear it. Elephants
I know
favorite.
You love them.
Oh my goodness.
I can't believe I didn't share that with you because it seriously makes me sob every time I listen to it.
Please.
Yeah, I will share it. I will share it. And I mean, seriously, like it's an awesome episode to listen to on their podcast too. So I'll find that episode and we'll link it up.
All right. Thank you.
Share the wealth.
Right. Yeah. Well, yes, it was awesome to talk about this with you today. And I'm so looking forward to next week.
Yes. Bye, everybody. I hope you have an amazing week talking to your animals.
Yes. See ya.
Bye. Thanks, everybody, for listening. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe and check the show description for the links to the show. We would love to hear your thoughts below on this episode, as well as anything that you'd like us to talk about on future episodes. Remember, everybody, you are unique just the way you are, and that is why they call us Woo.
Mm-hmm.